I stood in the foyer of the house I had just bought, the home I spent 8 years scrimping and saving for. A beautiful property valued at $965,000, located in the suburbs of Seattle, with 5 bedrooms, 4 bathrooms, and a spacious living room filled with natural light. I had dreamed of this day for so long, the day I'd finally have a place to call my own. But that dream was under threat the moment my mother stepped in. She crossed her arms, speaking in a tone that suggested the matter was already settled. Lily will take the master bedroom, you can stay in the basement. After all, you're always at work anyway. I clenched my fists, struggling to stay calm. But I bought this house, I said, emphasizing each word. Every single dollar came from my savings. Lily, my younger sister, leaned casually against the stair railing, her blue eyes gleaming with feigned innocence. Oh, don't be so selfish, Olivia. You know I need the space to grow my beauty brand. The lighting in the master bedroom is perfect for filming videos. Don't you want to help me succeed? I took a deep breath. In my 31 years I had grown used to being pushed aside, always sacrificing for Lily. As a child I wore her hand-me-downs, even when they no longer fit. In high school my parents used my college savings to pay for Lily's fashion course. Of course, she dropped out after 3 months because it didn't align with her creative vision. My family always made excuses for her while I was left to fend for myself. I worked multiple jobs through college, graduated from medical school with crushing student debt, then endured 8 grueling years as a resident, before finally becoming a neurosurgeon at Seattle Grace Hospital. And now, in the very house I bought with my own hard-earned money, they were deciding who got to live where. My father sat by the large window, sunlight catching the silver in his hair. You have to understand, Olivia. Lily is in the middle of a career transition. Her brand is about to take off. She just needs a little support. I gripped my bag tighter, frustration rising in my chest, just like when she opened that art studio, or became a makeup artist, or got certified as a yoga instructor last year, or when she started that handmade cosmetics line that shut down after 2 months. Lily pouted. You always criticize me, but at least I have passion, at least I don't give up, that's what matters. I didn't want to argue. I knew if I pushed back, I'd just be labeled the cold, heartless sister who wouldn't support her family. My mother looked around, her eyes lighting up as she mentally divided the space. The basement has a separate entrance. It's perfect for your schedule, you can come and go without disturbing anyone. I didn't respond. Instead, I quietly pulled out my phone and texted Rachel, my best friend and the real estate lawyer who helped me close on the house. They're doing it again. Time to implement Plan B. Her reply came instantly. Let them keep pushing. You're fully prepared. 6 months earlier, when I told Rachel I was buying this house for my family, she warned me. Olivia, Lily's going to try to take over. If you don't have protections in place, you'll lose control. I didn't want to believe it. I wanted to think my family wouldn't take advantage of me like that, but I wasn't naive. So Rachel and I drafted a legal agreement, one that gave me the final say over everything in the house, a document my family had never seen. My mother turned back to me smiling as if everything had been resolved. All right, sweetheart. That's settled then. I slipped my phone back into my pocket and smiled. Yes, Mom. That's settled. They had no idea that in just a few weeks, they'd learn this wasn't their house to control. I had spent my life giving in, but not this time. 3 weeks later, the house felt more like Lily's personal studio than my home. Boxes labeled Lily Rose lined the hallway. Just a few days ago, she'd asked our parents to help put up shimmering wallpaper in the master bedroom for a professional backdrop. I walked into the living room. It looked like a production set, ring lights pointed at the couch, tripods scattered across the floor, and the coffee table buried under serums, creams, and endless rows of lipstick samples. You don't mind, do you? Lily asked, adjusting her phone while holding a compact highlighter. I have a big live stream later to launch my new product. It's a sponsored stream, so it needs to look perfect. I crossed my arms, surveying the chaos. So you've started earning income from your brand? Lily blinked, caught off guard. Not exactly, but I have so much potential. If this live stream goes well, I might be getting a contract with them, Lily said, excitement lacing her voice. My father, lounging comfortably in his chair with a newspaper, glanced up. Sweetheart, you don't always have to be so serious. Your sister is trying. Can't you support her just a little? I let out a dry laugh. Oh, of course, just like how the family has supported me all these years. He pretended not to hear me. Day by day, Lily expanded her presence in the house like it was her own startup headquarters. The living room became her filming studio. The master bedroom transformed into a chaotic product storage zone. The dining area, rebranded as a strategy meeting space, where her fellow content creators brainstormed and filmed for hours. They were constantly in and out streaming, talking trends and leaving a trail of half-eaten snacks and tangled wires behind. The breaking point came one weekend night. I had just returned from a grueling 14-hour surgery. I stepped into what should have been my peaceful living room, only to find more than 20 strangers packed into it. Laughter echoed off the walls, music played softly in the background. The smell of wine and perfume filled the air. Lily, dressed in an elegant gown, stood at the center of it all like the host of a high society gala. A wine glass in hand, she beamed when she saw me. "Oh, you're home. I organized a small networking event for the content creator community. You know, we need to expand the brand." I scanned the room, stunned. People were draped across my favorite white sofa, sipping from glasses and live streaming while eating greasy appetizers. A row of high-end wine bottles stood on the dining table. Brands I had never bought, much less taste. "Lily," I said slowly, keeping my voice level. "This is my house. Did you even ask me before throwing this event?" She chuckled nervously. "Didn't you always say a home is meant to be lived in? I just wanted to make it a more creative space." I didn't argue. I pulled out my phone, opened my banking app, and stared at the screen. A transaction, nearly paid to an event services company, from my account. I took a long breath, swallowing my frustration. "Enjoy your evening," I said coldly, and walked straight to my office. As I shut the door behind me, I knew Plan B needed to happen immediately. The next morning, I sat in Rachel's office, tired and furious. This escalated way faster than I expected, I muttered, rubbing my temples. I hoped they'd have at least a shred of self-respect. Rachel raised an eyebrow. "Did you really think that?" I sighed. "No. But I wanted to give them a chance." She nodded and pulled out a familiar stack of documents. "Then it's time for the next step. You remember the clause we added?" I nodded. The property ownership agreement I signed before closing on the house stated that anyone residing on the premises for more than 30 days must sign a lease and contribute financially. Any commercial use of the property, filming, events, promotions, must be approved by me in writing. Violation of these terms grants me full legal authority to revoke residency. Lily had no idea about any of this. I met Rachel's gaze, my voice steady. "Do it." She picked up her pen, signing the notice. "We'll have it delivered by the end of the week." When I got home, Lily was filming in the living room, ring lights blazing. As I walked in, she turned the camera toward me. "And this is my sister, Dr. Olivia Lawrence," she said with a dramatic flourish. "She's my daily inspiration. Want to say hi to my audience?" I smiled tightly and looked straight into the lens. "I just want to say, some people are about to learn a very important lesson about homeownership." Lily laughed, thinking I was playing along, but she'd understand soon enough. A few days later, I called a family meeting. I sat on the living room sofa with a neat stack of documents laid out on the table. Across from me sat my parents and Lily, their expressions puzzled. They didn't know this wasn't just another chat. Rachel walked in, dressed in a sharp gray blazer. She closed the door behind her, set down her briefcase, and took a seat. "Good evening, everyone," she began, her tone calm but firm. "I'm Rachel Carter, Olivia's real estate attorney. She's asked me to join tonight to clarify some matters regarding the ownership and residency terms of this property." My father frowned. "Why do we need a lawyer? This is Olivia's house." "Sure, but it's still a family home. We're not strange." Rachel gave a polite smile, but there was steel in her voice. "Legally, this is not a family home. It is solely owned by Olivia Lawrence. And tonight, we're going to review the residency terms and financial responsibilities required to continue living here." I flipped open the contract. "As you all know, I bought this house with my own money," I said. Before closing, Rachel and I included very specific clauses to avoid exactly this kind of situation. Lily scoffed, folding her arms. "You're acting like we're tenants." Rachel didn't flinch. She slid a lease agreement across the table. "Legally, that's exactly what you are. Everything." Silence settled over the room like a fog. My father was the first to speak. "You're joking, right?" "No, Dad," I said. "I'm very serious." My mother shook her head, her voice tight with disbelief. "Olivia, you're a neurosurgeon. You make more than enough to support your family. Do you really want to nickel and dime your own parents?" I took a steady breath, keeping my voice even. "I'm not nickel and diming anyone. I'm asking for responsibility. I can't keep covering everything while being the only one in this house with a stable income." Lily jumped to her feet, her voice rising. "This is ridiculous. I'm a content creator. I'm building a brand. You can't expect me to pay rent like some 9-to-5 office worker." Rachel leaned back in her chair, tapping her pen against the documents. "By law, if you don't have a verifiable source of income or a legitimate financial account, you can't sign a lease. And if you can't sign a lease, you have 30 days to vacate the premises." Lily's mouth fell open. "You're kicking me out of the house." I met her eyes. "If you don't pay rent, then yes." The argument dragged on for more than an hour. My parents took turns blaming, pleading, and guilt-tripping. Lily cried, shouted, and tried every emotional card she had. But this time, I didn't fold. Eventually, when it became clear I wasn't going to change my mind, my mother shifted gears. "We can compromise," she said carefully. "Maybe Lily doesn't have to pay rent right away, but she can help around the house. She'll contribute in other ways." I shook my head. Lily turned this house into her personal studio. She threw parties, used my credit card without asking, and treated me like a guest in my own home. "And now you think some chores make up for that?" Lily clenched her fists, voice trembling. "You're going to regret this." I stood up, gathering the documents from the table. "You have 30 days, I said. After that, I'll take legal action." My father slammed his fist on the table. "We're family, Olivia. You can't do this to your own family." I looked him dead in the eye. Family is not an excuse to take advantage of someone. 30 days later, the house was mine again. After weeks of trying to hold on, arguing, negotiating, guilt-tripping, they finally realized I wasn't bluffing. They moved into a smaller apartment across town, not too far away, but far enough to give me the peace I needed. Without my house as the perfect backdrop for her videos, Lily had no choice but to find a real job. I later heard she was working as a receptionist at a gym, the first job in her life she had managed to keep for more than a month. My parents stopped sending passive-aggressive texts and guilt-laced voice messages. They didn't apologize, but at least they had stopped trying to manipulate me. That first night in my quiet home, I sat on the couch with a mug of hot tea. No fake laughter from strangers, no ring lights glaring in the hallway, no live streams at 2 a.m., just me, and the peace I had fought so hard to reclaim. 6 months later, a letter arrived in the mail. It was from Lily. "Olivia, I've tried to write this letter so many times, but only now do I truly know what I need to say. I always thought you were heartless, but now I see, you were the only one strong enough to set boundaries. I needed you, but you helped me by refusing to help me unconditionally. I had to learn how to live without a safety net, and while it was harder than I ever imagined, I now understand it was necessary. Thank you for being stronger than me. Thank you for not giving in. I hope one day you can forgive me." Lily, I read the letter over and over, a quiet sense of relief settling over me. For the first time in a long while, I felt hope not just for my own peace, but for Lily's growth. The next morning, I sent a simple text: "Let's grab coffee. We have a lot to talk about." I didn't know if our relationship could ever return to what it once was, but maybe it didn't have to. What mattered was that this time, we weren't starting over from my unconditional sacrifice. We were starting from her genuine growth, and to me that was a worthwhile change. The Seattle sky was gray as I sat by the window, cradling a warm cup of coffee in my hands. The house was quieter than it had ever been. No more rowdy guests, no more 2 a.m. live streams, no more absurd charges on my credit card. The last 6 months had been the first time I'd truly lived for myself. I walked through each room, taking in the transformation. The living room, once cluttered with ring lights and tripods, now held a cozy sofa and a bookshelf filled with my favorite novel. The kitchen was spotless, no lingering mess from extravagant content cooking sessions, and the master bedroom, finally mine, as it always should have been. But this wasn't just about reclaiming physical space. Letting Lily and my parents go wasn't an act of cruelty. It was a necessary turning point for all of us. I was no longer my family's personal ATM. I was no longer sacrificing my peace for relationships built on dependency and entitlement. I drove to the cafe where I'd agreed to meet Lily. She was already there, sitting in a quiet corner. No phone stand, no live stream, no flashy designer dress, just a simple blouse, and her hair tied neatly back. When I sat down, she looked up and smiled. Not the camera-ready smile I'd seen 100 times, but a real one. "You still drink unsweetened lattes, right?" she asked, nudging a cup toward me. I raised an eyebrow. "You remember?" "I remember a lot of things," she said softly. "I remember how much you tried to help me. I just never acknowledged it." I stayed silent, letting her speak. "You were right," she continued, staring into her coffee. "I spent my whole life thinking someone would always be there to catch me. When you weren't, I had to find my own way. And honestly, it wasn't easy." I looked at her, really looked, and saw the change. Gone was the girl who clung to others. In her place was a woman who had started to stand on her own. "Do you regret it?" Lily asked. "Kicking me out? Kicking mom and dad out?" I shook my head. "No, if I hadn't, you wouldn't have had the chance to grow." She let out a soft laugh. "Maybe I hated you for it. Maybe I still don't fully understand it. But I'm grateful now." I took a sip of my coffee, feeling a quiet relief. Lily was no longer the dependent little sister I'd once known. She was still learning, but now at least, she was trying. "Can we start over?" she asked. This time, as real sisters. I smiled. I'd really like that. Outside, the Seattle rain fell gently against the windows, washing away the remnants of the past. I knew things would never go back to how they used to be, but maybe this time, they'd be better. Olivia's story isn't just about a house or a family conflict, it's a story about boundaries, about self-respect, about choosing peace over pleasing. Sometimes the best way to love someone is not by rescuing them, but by allowing them to face the consequences of their choices. Saying no isn't easy, especially with family, but sometimes it's the only way to help someone grow. Olivia didn't just reclaim her home, she helped her sister find her own path to self-sufficiency. What do you think? Was Olivia too harsh, or was her decision necessary for her family to grow? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to follow for more real stories about life, family, and learning to stand your ground.